The snowdrop is the first of the year's new wildflowers to come into bloom, and few flowers are more familiar or popular. And you would have to think of it as something of an optimist among flowers, because those bright, conspicuous, sweet-smelling flowers, rich in nectar, are clearly designed to attract foraging insects. The problem is, of course, that there are so few insects on the wing at this time of the year. On the other hand, those insects that are on the wing are going to spot the snowdrops immediately, particularly when there are so few other competing flowers around. And those hungry early insects that the snowdrop is so patiently waiting for are early foraging honeybees, eager to be out and about in their search for nectar and pollen, both of which the snowdrop can supply in abundance. There are 3 snow-white boat-shaped outer petals, then 3 smaller notched inner petals, all with a waxy texture that can last several weeks. Nectar is secreted in a series of deep longitudinal grooves between these green ridges on the inside of the inner petals, and a green crescent at the back focuses the visitor's attention on these nectar-secreting grooves. The 6 anthers form a tight cone around the style, each with an apical split for pollen release, rather like a salt cellar. With a hand lens, you will see the way the anther narrows at the tip to an outward curved spine that rests against the petal in the early stages. When these spines are displaced by the probing of a visiting bee, the anther flicks back, dusting the visitor with pollen. Remember, the flower is upside down. This can happen several times during successive visits by bees. And since the style projects beyond the anthers, a visiting bee will come into contact with the stigma first of all as it takes hold of the petals. Should no insects visit, all is not lost, because the stamens in that tight cone around the needle-like style loosen and pollen can fall down onto the stigma. We can regard the snowdrop as a wildflower because it is so well established in old gardens, orchards, cemeteries, domains, places where it might have been planted many centuries ago. In fact, the native home, the ancestral home of the snowdrop, is in woods in the south and east of Europe, from which it was introduced into these islands only in the 16th century, which is surprisingly late. One reason why it was introduced so late is that it has almost no culinary or medicinal value. All it has going for it is its beauty and the fact that so little else is in flower at this time of the year. And this is enough to merit a place for it in every garden. In fact, so popular has it proved to be that hundreds of different varieties have been bred by dedicated gardeners and propagated and looked after in gardens over many centuries. To such an extent indeed that the gardeners who specialise in snowdrops are considered to be a distinct subspecies of gardener known as Galantophiles. Galantophiles. This comes from the Latin scientific name from the plant, which is Galanthus nivalis. Galantos in Greek means milk flower, and nivalis is belonging to the snow. So it's a wonderfully tautologous name, snowy milk flower. It has a wonderful name in French. The French name for snowdrop is perce-neige, which means snow piercer. You probably think that the English name simply means a drop of snow. But in fact, the drop here is a pendant, as in a necklace. The Irish is plúirín sneachta. Sneachta, of course, is snow, and plúirín is a pet name for a beautiful girl. There is a more particular reason for the medieval popularity of the snowdrop, especially in the monastic gardens of the time. It used to be thought that flowers were symbolic of human virtues and vices and of human emotions in general. In fact, some people believed that this is why flowers had been created in the first place. And in this regard, the snow-white petals of the flower of snowdrop were considered to be symbolic of the virtue of purity, particularly in connection with the Mother of Jesus, the Blessed Virgin. It was the custom on the Feast of the Purification, on the 2nd of February, the Purification of Our Lady, to decorate altars and chapels dedicated to Our Lady with snowdrops. And in the medieval legend that accounts for the origin of the snowdrop, it was said that the angel charged with escorting a sorrowful Eve from the Garden of Eden after the fall of her first parents took pity on her, and in order to cheer her up, turned the flakes of falling snow to drops of snow. And where these touched the ground, they turned to flowers. The current holder of the Nobel Prize for Literature is the American poet Louise Gluck. And one of her many wildflower poems is a snowdrop poem. It's not a poem about snowdrops, but it is a poem in the voice of the snowdrop. And there's something about it that I think resonates with the mood of the times we are living through. And I thought it would be nice to finish by reading it for you. It's from her 1992 collection, The Wild Iris. Snowdrops. Do you know what I was, how I lived? You know what despair is. Then winter should have meaning for you. I did not expect to survive, earth suppressing me. I didn't expect to waken again, to feel in damp earth my body able to respond again, remembering after so long how to open again in the cold light of earliest spring. Afraid, yes, but among you again crying, yes, risk joy in the raw wind of the new world.